Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Metal Gear University. I am Kay.
I am T.
And shortly we'll be bringing in the TV to watch the live courtroom of the Big Boss trial. But first,
we wanted to thank our two jurors, Luffy Webster and Johnny from Metal Gear Resurrections. And, of course, our wonderful sketch artist, Survivor Type.
Survivor T-Type, if you're going on Twitter.
Well, yeah, we'll be sure to list their socials and stuff. We also want to thank you guys that are listening. We never take it for granted. We love all the feedback. We love all, everything.
Comments, questions, suggestions.
We're at almost 10K listens, over 200 followers, and that is wild to me.
Again, we just want to say a big thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a labor of love. And we appreciate everyone taking the time to listen, to send us emails. Please send any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes to itstkandm@gmail.com. That is ITSTKANDM@gmail.com. We will be talking about our feelings regarding the Delta trailer and everything after the duration of this trial, because I think that'll probably take a whole episode.
Probably. Maybe there'll be like a 201
breakdown.
Delta deep dive.
Also, we would like to do a year wrap-up episode and an anniversary episode. So our anniversary for the podcast will be in October, and the year wrap-up we hope to probably do in December. So if you have any questions or anything you want us to do for those episodes, again, feel free to email us.
Thank you again, and we'll see you all next time.
On to the trial.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I am standing outside the courtroom for the second day of the trial of Big Boss. Last week, the members of the jury got sworn in, and they are all set and ready to go. We're heading down to the courtroom right now for the prosecution to submit their case.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to day 2 of the trial of Big Boss. My name is Kay, and I am on the defense team for Big Boss. T, today we will be moving forward with the trial. You and I have both agreed upon the discovery for today. That is the evidence.
Yes, we have.
We have agreed upon the evidence for today. And as you know, you have to meet the burden of proof.
Oh, I did.
Well, you haven't yet. You will try till today.
Okay.
Today you will bring forward your case. We will go evidence by evidence. And you will lose against my glorious defense of my innocent client, Big Boss.
Innocent?
Are you ready to begin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's begin.
Members of the jury, how are you? It's me, T. The defense is cackling in the corner because they're fearful. They're fearful for what I have to show. I have with me 3 examples, 3 bits of evidence, some might say, of Big Boss being the kingpin of a global terror network. So, my first bit of evidence could be found in Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes. We have an audio recording of Big Boss and Huey conspiring to hide weapons of mass destruction from the IAEA. I will play this recording now.
You got a call. Boss, can you hear me?
What's up, Huey?
Our guests are right on time. Document destruction and hangar decontamination are complete. AFVs have been stowed away, and Zeke's on the seafloor along with a nuke. Everyone's got their story straight. The guided tour will be wrapped up by the time you get home.
Make me proud.
By the time they leave, I'll have the IAEA praising us as the poster boys for world peace. Out.
So, you heard that with your own ears. Big Boss himself conspiring with his top scientist to burn documents, to hide nuclear weapons and a weapon of mass destruction known as Metal Gear at the bottom of the ocean, while a government agency is tasked with a safety check. I'm sorry, is this North Korea? Is this Iran? No! This is a random man in the middle of the Caribbean, just playing willy-nilly, playing God, some might say, with nukes. The defense has nothing to say because it's indefensible. My next piece of evidence. My chair is squeaking because I am so passionate. My next piece of evidence is from Metal Gear Solid 5. Ironically, it's from a tape labeled Truth. The defense is cackling again because they're fearful. This tape is called Doublethink, where Ocelot, one of Big Boss's most top allies, conspires with Big Boss to use at least 32 innocent people in a hospital in Cyprus as human shields so he could escape unscathed. I will play this audio recording right now.
Things are looking worse. Go on. They found out about you waking up, and the man on fire picked this time to wake up too. We'll have to move forward ahead of schedule. Miller already has the preparations underway. We'll have to wake up your neighbor too. So he's not. He seems awake now. No. Well, he's not actively conscious yet, at least. He was a doctor too. In his mind, that past no longer exists. Your past is his past now. You make it sound easy. We've been busy over the last 9 years. He was always the best man we had. But 9 years ago in that helicopter, he threw himself between you and the blast. In that moment, the man you knew died. He died protecting you. And now, by becoming you, he protects you again. It's what he wanted. He's in his dog days now. It's not just him. We'll be putting the people in this hospital in the line of fire. They'll be your shield and necessary diversion to buy us some time. And you? I'll be right by his side. Can you keep it up?
As you can tell, that audio recording is definitive proof of a conspiracy to allow a terror attack to happen at a hospital so that Big Boss could make his clean getaway. I'm sorry. Is this what a hero would do? Is this what a idol of American democracy, the person who earned the title of Big Boss, is this someone who your children would look up to? No. In fact, I might be skipping a beat here. In fact, he might kidnap your children.
Objection. Unrelated. That wasn't part of Discovery.
Fine. I will move on to the next piece of evidence. Now, I have in front of me, let me get my piece of paper here. There we go. I have with me a transcript that Big Boss said himself at the end of Metal Gear 2 to his, I don't know, his son or whatever. I will read you his speech, his manifesto, some would call it. I'll begin right now. Once you've been on the battlefield, tasted the exhilaration, the tension, it all becomes part of you. Once you've awakened the warrior within, it never sleeps again. You crave ever bigger tensions, ever bigger thrills. You care nothing of power, or money, or even sex. The only thing that satisfies your cravings is war. You saw those children, didn't you? Everyone is a victim of a war somewhere in the world, and they'll make fine soldiers in the next war. Start a war, fan its flames, create victims, then save them, train them, and feed them back onto the battlefield. Does the defense have an objective? An objective?
An objection?
Yes.
Is that what the word you're looking for?
Don't be smart.
We don't, because this is relevant. Sorry.
It's okay. It is a perfectly logical system in this world of ours. Conflict never ends, and neither does our purpose, our raison d'être. Oh, cultured, Big Boss. On the battlefield, you and I are valuable commodities, but back home, we are nothing but dead weight. If we're lucky, we might get the attention of some 2-bit journalist from a cheap tabloid. So, Big Boss, your whole motive, you stupidly spouted out into a microphone at the end of a game. Is this a game to you? Because I look at this and I just see a guy who just wants to wreck shit. I just see a guy who doesn't even want power. He just wants to fight things. Do you even have a plan, Big Boss? If you caught the car, if you're the dog who caught the car, what would you have done? If you conquered the world, would you conquer space? Is space the next battlefield, or are you gonna make Space Force? Big Boss doesn't even know what he wants. Big Boss is just some lunatic who just wants to rule the world because he can. What kind of a man is that? I heed to the defense to try to defend themselves from this.
Thank you, prosecution, for your attempt at building your case. These 3 events are very easily explained away, and I will begin so now. As we know, my client, Big Boss, is a man of many, many woes. A man of many, many choices. I cannot sit here in good faith and say he has not harmed. I cannot sit here in good faith and say he has not done evil. What I can, without a doubt, say, however, is he is not the sole perpetrator of all these crimes. And you are tasked with today, jury, of convicting this man of terrorism, of war crimes, of child trafficking, everything under the sun. Within that Ground Zero's tape that the prosecution has brought forward to you, isn't that a tape of 2 team members? Speaking of other team members, is Mother Base not a group of people, a community working to get together towards a goal? To sit here and point at Big Boss as the sole perpetrator of these crimes when, might I add you, he was not even there on Mother Base when those documents were being destroyed, when that tour was happening. Who led the tour? Who hit all the nukes? Zeke? Did he do all that himself? No. He was elsewhere, rescuing members of his team, members that he cared for.
Your Honor, I would like to point out that the members of his team just so happened to consist of a child soldier
Objection.
from an American military
Objection.
base in Cuba.
Objection. Big Boss was rescuing captured team members, people he cared for, while other team members of his were, yes, they might have been misleading a government organization. When has the government not misled us? I continue. The doublethink tape, these truth tapes, as you so aptly describe them, consist of our client, Big Boss, and his right-hand man, Ocelot. I would like to play this segment of the tape right now.
He was always the best man we had. But 9 years ago in that helicopter, he threw himself between you and the blast. In that moment, the man you knew died. He died protecting you. And now, by becoming you, he protects you again.
Does that not sound like someone who is cautious? Maybe even a little bit saddened to hear the news? We're talking about a man who spent 9 years in a coma not able to make any choices, not able to say or speak for himself. He awakens and is told that his neighbor, his medic, his doctor who he respected, has been brainwashed and led to believe that he is now Big Boss himself. I hear a man in that tape. I hear Big Boss saddened by that news. I hear Ocelot gung ho, moving forward with this plan that obviously Big Boss had no part of. I mean, these past 9 years, where was he? Where was he? Where's Ocelot? Maybe we should be trying him instead of my client. I move on. Big Boss, at the end of Metal Gear 2, you so eloquently, prosecution, if I may say eloquently, spoke of his monologue. I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I am grateful that you spelled everything out, because I think what was so important in that monologue, and there were two very important things in that monologue. Big Boss states, start a war, fan its flames, create victims, then save them, train them, and feed them back onto the battlefield. Does that not sound like the United States of America?
Objection.
Does that not sound like America in every war since its origin?
Objection.
In this world of ours, Big Boss says, conflict never ends. We have a man who says he cares nothing for power or money or even sex. He craves war because that is all he knows. This is a man that knows nothing else but the battlefield, because he himself, as a child, was involved in war. This was a child who, after growing up, and honestly, we don't even have records of his early life. But what we do know is that papers were forged for him to enter into the military before the age of 18. Big Boss continues, on the battlefield, you and I are valuable commodities, but back home, we're nothing but dead weight. Jury, counsel, I have one question for you. When was the last time you've heard Big Boss ever mention home? Home. Family. This might be the first time he's mentioned anything about his past. This man knows nothing but pain and anguish. And the only home he knows, the only home that he's referring to, is the United States of America, which spit him out once they were done with him. Jury, I do hope you are listening, because these three events that the prosecution would like you to consider as, proof of his war crimes, his terrorism, I see nothing but a man who has had the worst of the military done to him, who has had a terrible childhood, and who has had a team of people working with him. This is not a sole lone wolf type situation. This man, the majority of crimes attributed to him happened when he wasn't even around. I rest my case.
So, jury, listen here. I know that the defense is trying to paint Big Boss as a victim, as someone who was let down by the system. And they might have a point. I'm not saying that America is perfect. Far from it. Camp Omega, which is where Big Boss rescued his child soldier from, was the site of atrocities. And I don't make excuses for that. Where I do make excuses, though, is how Big Boss went about seeking retribution. Since we're on the subject of child soldiers, should we talk about the child soldier that he rescued from this facility? He's known by the alias of Chico. He met Chico in Costa Rica. he sold out members of his unit, and Big Boss did some pseudo cult-like behavior to induct him into his ranks. He pointed a gun at Chico, and then he pointed that gun at a photo of him and shot a hole through Chico in the picture. And he said that Chico died that day. And from here on out, you belong to me. Does that sound like a man who has Chico's best interests at heart? No. No, it doesn't. I would bring Chico onto the stand now to tell his story, but his bones lie rotting at the bottom of the ocean. Because
Objection.
All right.
Is that accurate? Do we have Chico's? Do we know where Chico is?
I wish I could tell you where Chico is. Because no one knows. It is only assumed that Chico died in a helicopter crash that Big Boss most likely started.
Is this a trial of assumptions?
I'm moving on to my second example. So, let's say Chico somehow survived. Chico became a man. What kind of a man would he become? Well, I have a great window to show you. I bring forth Sniper Wolf. Sniper Wolf was a member of Foxhound. She was a crack shot sniper. She was amazing. Now,
Quite beautiful as well.
yes, but beauty is subjective. But Sniper Wolf was a Kurd. This is very relevant. The Kurds, historically, are a stateless people. Very sad. And Big Boss took advantage of a child who was the victim of war crimes and brought them home and inducted them into a cult that praised her for killing other people. Sniper Wolf ended up dying in a field in Alaska somewhere. Now, tell me, what business did Sniper Wolf have in Alaska? She followed cult after cult, from Big Boss to Liquid, and look where it ended up. Bleeding out on a field late at night with nothing but wolves for company. Tragic. Just like Chico. Now I bring forth, as another example, both Zero and Paz. Now Zero was Big Boss's old friend. Zero was I can't designate this enough, the leader of a massive conspiracy that is more or less the Illuminati. Like I said before, America is not perfect. I will admit that. Now, Zero and Big Boss did have tensions, but I will bring up this. I believe it was right for Solidus Snake to stand up to the Patriots. Now, do I believe that Solidus Snake had the right to do anything that he did? No. No, he didn't. But I do believe that he was trying to do the right thing. And that is exactly what Big Boss did. You might think that Big Boss might have a point. That Zero had to go. But was it really the right move? Was it the right time? I think not. Now for Paz. Paz, much like Zero, is very conniving. She worked with Zero to try to manipulate Snake to work with the Illuminati, more or less, to be their muscle. And Big Boss declined. You could agree or disagree. I'm not here to make that call. So, Snake defeats Paz. Paz goes in the ocean. Then Paz gets brought up by fishermen and shipped off to Camp Omega in Cuba, a U.S. military base. An official one. It's a black site, but it's official. Big Boss made it a point to go into this top secret government facility. No business in it. He revoked his U.S. citizenship years ago. He went into it and took out Paz, not for the kindness of his own heart, but to stop her from squealing about his own nukes, his own top military secrets. Need I remind you that Big Boss is not the leader of a nation. He's not the leader of an official military. He's just a normal man, just like me and you. He may be skilled, I'll give him that. But he is a stateless soldier who has no business with nukes. And all because that Paz was going to squeal, Big Boss wanted her out of the picture. I rest my case.
Prosecution, thank you for that. And thank you for introducing this next segment of what you call evidence against my client. Let's go one by one, shall we? Chico, wherever he is, I hope he is resting peacefully. We do not know where he is. We do not know his outcome. He could be living somewhere beautiful right now, enjoying his freedom.
Objection, I disagree.
That's not... You can't do that in court.
Whatever.
Anyway, Chico, may I remind you, is a person. Each and every one of us has our own free will. Each and every one of us has the ability to make the best decisions for ourselves. The autonomy in which God has given us allows us to do what we think is right. Whether Big Boss was there or not, Chico was ready for war. This moment in which you say Big Boss pointed a gun at Chico and then shot a picture of Chico to, you say, influence Chico into or induct him into this cult. Was Big Boss not just showing Chico the reality of war? Was Big Boss not just showing Chico what would happen to him in the field of battle? Big Boss knew Chico was going to do what Chico wanted to do. And all he could do was best prep this young man to show him the reality of war. Big Boss in that moment was doing what he felt was best to best prepare this young man for the reality of war. Chico made his own choices. Chico knew that this would not be easy. Chico was familiar with death, with destruction. And Chico was ready for that. So to sit here and say that Big Boss took this poor, impressionable child soldier and built him up in his own, you are taking away the person that is Chico, the soldier that is Chico. You are removing his autonomy from him. And I personally think that's very disrespectful. Jury, judge, imagine someone said that your free will was because of your teachers or your mentor, that you are not your own person, that every one of your choices is because of the influence of someone else. Is that accurate? Is that fair? I move on to Sniper Wolf. Sniper Wolf knew what war leads to. Sniper Wolf took it upon herself to become confident, to become able, and to protect herself in a war, in a world that never sought to protect her. She took it upon herself, and again, with Big Boss, who again, this is a man who grew up on the battlefield, who knew nothing else but war. Again, I'm not saying Big Boss is a perfect man. I'm not saying that by any means I would do the same, or maybe even any of us would do the same. But could you blame him for showing these angry young men and women the realities? Can you blame him for not seeing himself in Chico and Sniper Wolf and going, I know what your path forward looks like. Let me guide you in the best way I can. Big Boss never forced any of them to do his bidding. from my understanding, Sniper Wolf was more than happy to show love to. What was her nickname for him again? Prosecution.
Saladin.
She had a nickname for him. A word from her own culture, from her own people. Would you say?
I would say so.
A kinship. Big Boss did the best he could with what he had. And to take away the autonomy of Chico and Sniper Wolf and say that they are victims of some cult, that they are victims of a mastermind, no. I say that these two were hell-bent on revenge, hell-bent on a path forward, hell-bent on reuniting with their people, building their community. And Big Boss said, let me help you in the best way I can. Moving on to what the prosecution states. Well, the next two witnesses, Zero and Paz. Zero, first off, prosecution, I do not understand why you would bring Zero into this mess. We spoke of Ocelot earlier as you labeled him a right-hand man. Some might say even the mastermind. And Zero would fall into that camp as well. You yourself, prosecution, labeled Zero as the Illuminati, or perhaps created the Illuminati. Prosecution, I ask, was Big Boss a part of that Illuminati?
Yes. Yes, he was.
And what happened? What the Illuminati, was there a falling out?
There was a falling out.
So, is Big Boss part of the Illuminati now?
He is not, no.
Oh, so you're telling me this massive conspiratorial organization ousted Big Boss?
I will say that disapproving of mob-like tactics and starting a mob of your own doesn't make you innocent.
That is not the question I asked. Was Big Boss ousted from the Illuminati, essentially?
When did I get on the stand here? What happened here?
I am asking a question.
Okay, I'm on the stand.
Was he ousted?
He wasn't ousted. Technically, he left because he found out that they were making clones of him.
Oh, so you're telling me that Big Boss maybe not the right choice, was part of the Illuminati, maybe had maybe had a broader image or picture of what he wanted the world to look like. Okay, maybe in the beginning. But you're telling me he left of his own accord because the Illuminati was conspiring against his own wishes.
Yes.
You're telling me the Illuminati took advantage of not only Big Boss's mind, but his body by using his DNA?
Yes.
Thank you. That's no more further questions for you, prosecution.
How did I get on the stand?
Zero is a mastermind in itself, and we all know that at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, Big Boss essentially kills Zero. Zero happens to be sadly comatose. He was a very beyond senile man who was in a wheelchair, very incapable of defending himself. Who put him in that state, I ask? Was that Big Boss? No, it was not Big Boss. Big Boss's decision to, I would say, euthanize Zero was, if anything, a mercy killing to the state that Zero was in. In regards to Paz, who did Paz work for again? May I remind you? Oh, Zero. Oh, okay. Why would Big Boss not seek to protect himself? Knowing that Paz was working under the guise of Zero, Cypher, the Illuminati, some might say, that the prosecution even said, why would he not seek out his own safety? Why would he not seek out Paz? And might I remind you, he was not the one who killed Paz. Might I remind you, when he rescued Paz, was not one of his own team members performing life-saving measures to remove a bomb from her stomach? Were they not providing her medical care in an army helicopter after he rescued her?
Might I ask whatever happened to this person that rescued Paz?
Yeah. Might I add, was it Big Boss who killed her?
No.
I rest my case.
What happened to the guy on the helicopter?
I rest my case.
What happened to him? Now, I might just be a simple country lawyer.
Where'd you get the accent?
It's a bit.
Continue.
Now, I just be a simple country lawyer. But I know that nukes are bad. Nukes are not good. I would argue that they are not great. So why would anybody want one? I'll tell you right now, the only people that would want a nuke is someone who is a monster. I can't argue for countries.
Oh.
I'm arguing for people.
Okay. Convenient.
Name me a singular person who owns a nuclear weapon. Can any one of you tell me a singular human being who has a finger on the button to blow up any city in the world? That's just one thing. Can I go on? Yes. Yes, I can. In the 90s, Big Boss launched a terrorist incident in Zanzibar land. Some of you might have heard of it. He kidnapped a scientist, Keo Marv, and planned to control the world's oil supply. All of it. Like, all of it. Why? Because he could. Because he's just a silly little guy who likes to control nukes and likes to control oil. Oh, he also has an affinity for giant robots that could launch said nukes. Why would he do that? Because he's a cult leader sycophant who wants to impasse his will onto other people, but he's too much of a loser to get people to listen to him, so he has to go to children to induct his philosophy into. And he uses children as a way to recycle soldiers that die in battle. He said himself in his speech that he uses his soldiers to create victims, then takes those victims, brings them in, and inducts them into his own ranks, making them believe that Big Boss saved them from this environment. Little do they know that Big Boss created that environment to begin with. Members of the jury, I just want to tell you that Big Boss is not a good man. I would argue he's an evil man. Somebody who needs to be put away for the rest of his life. And if I could just say, because I'm getting passionate, if I could just say that if you were here for the OJ trial, would you let him go? No. If you were here for the Robert Durst trial, would you let him go? If Charles Manson was on this stand, would you let him go? Big Boss is no different. Big Boss is no different than any of these men, from the Gambino crime family to Al Capone to Osama bin Laden. He is of the same ilk, the same cloth. Members of the jury, don't just rule on how Big Boss felt. Rule on the law. Do you think it's okay for your neighbor to hold a nuke? To start a cult? No. While you deliberate, I want you to think on those words. Thank you.
The prosecution brings up the idea of nukes and states it is not correct for an individual person to hold nuclear weapons. weapons of mass destruction. However, it's all right for a country. You speak of a country as if it's not a collection of people, as if it's not a group of people working together towards a goal. Are nukes ever the right answer? Why should anyone at all hold a nuke? If you're going to try Big Boss for holding a nuke, then I again ask you, should we not try the United States of America? Is there no country on this planet that has not held a weapon of mass destruction and threatened to use it? Or, might I add, promote and do horrendous acts of terrorism in the name of heroism and freedom? In regards to Oil 9, I see a man who, again, a victim of a war society that created him. A man who never in his life had any control. I ask you to think about the events of Metal Gear Solid 3. A man who had no control over what he could do, who saw his own very mother killed by his own hands. Oil 9 was just one method in which he sought to create a world where he might feel safe. Oil 9 was not right by any means, but has our own country not fought for oil themselves? Has our own country not started wars for oil themselves? Please, don't make me go on in detail about the various things we've done, the various things this country has done in the name of freedom, or shall I say oil, power, wealth. In terms of Metal Gears, was the United States government not themselves building a Metal Gear? Rhetorical question, but answer it.
Yes.
So it's okay for a country to do so. It's okay for, a secret operative, secrets of the government. That's okay. But for one man to do it himself, it's against the law now? What makes the United States right? Justified?
May I answer that?
Sure, I'll allow it.
In the United States, if the president were to die, not to say that I want him to, but let's say if it happened.
You have to add that caveat.
Well, would you be worried on who is in control of the nukes? No, because we have systems in place that dictate who is in control of what during what time. If Big Boss were to choke on a pretzel and die, I could only imagine the power struggle and the infighting to get control of those weapons.
Why are there nukes in general? Why does the United States have the need for a nuke? Are we not the most powerful country in the world? Mind you, shut up. What is not the current state of affairs in America? Is there not currently a power struggle happening? Is there not an election coming up where many people are concerned and there's a very... Is there not a power struggle happening currently? I continue. Between the nukes, between Oil 9, between having Metal Gears, I again remind you that the United States government has not only done the same kind of... has not only made the same kind of choices as Big Boss, they have lied to the American people many a times. May I remind you, Metal Gear Solid 2 was an elaborate cover-up by the United States government that if it weren't for Solid Snake, the people, you and I, would not know of it. The United States government does many things in the interest of our, our in our best interest, so they say. Big Boss took it upon himself to do what was in his best interest. He had a country that turned its back on him, that made him kill his own mother, that made his mother basically erased from history. He has seen children in the world victims of wars that he has not caused, yet he sees these children. And what does he do? They have no other place to go. And so he takes them in. And again, he was never a parent. He, again, was a victim himself of war. He doesn't know any better. So all he can do is do what he feels is best. And if he sees these angry young children, these angry young people, and he knows that they're going to become angry adults, the best he can do is better prepare them to survive, to defend themselves. I implore all of you to remember, we all have free will. It is important to respect the autonomy of others. Paz, Chico, Kaz, Ocelot, every beautiful and amazing soldier on Mother Base, they all stood there of their own volition to support Big Boss. Now, I would like to end by saying this is a trial to convict Big Boss of war crimes, of terrorism, of creating child soldiers. The list goes on. When has the United States not done the same? Why is one man on trial right now? Where is his team? Where is Zero? Where is Cypher? Where is everyone else that has caused the world to exist in the way it does now? The military-industrial complex existed way before Big Boss. All he was trying to do is what he felt was right. Create a world in which he was safe. Create a world in which he had some semblance of power, because he never did. He was a child with no family. A home that disregarded him. And a man with no country. I implore all of you to sit here and look back on everything we've discussed today. Think about everything Big Boss has done. And I want you to really consider, are we looking at a mastermind? This purely evil villain? Or a victim of the United States of America? Jury, I know this man has done numerous amounts of evil deeds, has caused much pain, but I implore you to be as unbiased as you showed us last time. I implore you to take your time and really sift through and see each of these crimes, each of these charges, break it down. Who was there? What happened? And really, was it this one man? I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Attorney K, for the entertaining defense.
You're welcome.
The jury will be going into the back to deliberate, and next episode will be jury deliberation.
I look forward to the jury making the correct and right decision. As you know, Attorney T, we have two very unbiased jurors, and I do have a great feeling that they will make the right decision. Thank you for bringing in that half-assed case you brought in earlier.
The half-assed case.
Thank you for bringing in it's you know, you had the burden of proof, and you.
I literally have him on tape admitting to burning documents and hiding.
Did he burn the documents?
Did Charles Manson kill anybody?
Tune in next time to Metal Gear University. Goodbye.
Goodbye.